My boss promised me a promotion if I stayed quiet about his secret, but when I refused, he destroyed everything I worked for. What I didn't know was that his downfall had already begun. I never thought my dream job would become a nightmare. When I joined Rutherford and Chase Consulting, I was 26, fresh out of business school, hungry, determined, ready to prove myself. Everyone said I had potential, and maybe I did. I was the first in, last to leave, and every client I handled seemed to trust me more than they trusted themselves. For a while, it felt like everything I'd ever wanted was finally within reach. Then came Mr. Langston, the man everyone called the Shark. He was my department head, polished, powerful, the kind of boss who made people lower their voices when he walked by. He liked control, and I, unfortunately, was good at helping him keep it. It started small. Fix the numbers, he'd say. Adjust the language in the report. At first, I thought it was harmless, just corporate smoothing. But soon the adjustments turned into lies. Profit margins inflated, losses disguised, client accounts manipulated to look cleaner than they were. I told myself I was just doing my job. Until one Friday evening, after everyone had left, I stayed back to finish a report. That's when I saw it, an internal memo I wasn't supposed to see. A project listed under an offshore client name that didn't exist. The signatures were fake. The money trail, hidden. I froze. My hands trembled over the keyboard. And for the first time since joining the firm, I realized we weren't just bending rules. We were breaking them. The next morning, Mr. Langston called me into his office. His tone was calm. Too calm. Smart girl, he said, tapping the desk. You've been digging where you shouldn't. That's ambitious, I tried to explain, my voice shaking. Sir, I just noticed discrepancies. He raised a hand to stop me. You've got two options, Amelia. You can look the other way and get that promotion you've been working for. Or, he leaned in, eyes narrowing, you can play hero and lose everything. My heart pounded so hard I thought he could hear it. A promotion, my own team, the salary I dreamed of, or the truth. And unemployment, blacklisting, maybe worse. He slid a thick envelope across the desk. Think it over. Silence has value. I stared at it. The offer, the bribe, the weight of everything I'd worked for condensed into a single manila envelope. I didn't open it. I didn't move. I just whispered, I thought integrity mattered here. He smiled. Slow, cruel. Integrity doesn't pay rent, Amelia. That night, I couldn't sleep. His words kept echoing in my mind. Integrity doesn't pay rent. But what if it costs your soul? The envelope sat on my kitchen counter all night. Untouched, heavy, poisonous. And as the city lights flickered outside my window, I knew one thing for sure. Silence had a price. If you were in Amelia's place, would you stay silent and take the promotion or expose the truth and risk everything? By Monday morning, the envelope was gone. I didn't throw it away. I just left it on the kitchen counter when I left for work, a silent reminder of what I refused to touch. I told myself I'd pretend nothing happened. Just keep working, keep my head down. But pretending felt like drowning with a smile on my face. When I walked into the office, something felt off. The way people looked at me was different, curious, cautious, almost like they knew something I didn't. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but by lunchtime, my friend Kara confirmed it. She leaned across the break room table, lowering her voice. Did Langston talk to you? My stomach turned. Why? Because people are saying you've been digging around the client accounts. That you're asking questions. I forced a nervous laugh. People say a lot of things. Kara looked at me carefully. Amelia, listen. This place isn't safe when you start asking questions. Just keep your head down, okay? But I couldn't. Every time I opened another report, I saw the patterns. Falsified data, shifted balances, trails leading nowhere. It wasn't one mistake. It was a system. And the deeper I looked, the more I saw Langston's fingerprints everywhere. Later that afternoon, I found something worse. A transaction labeled Project Osprey. $1.2 million transferred to a shell company overseas. The authorization code matched Langston's. But the signature underneath was mine. My throat went dry. I hadn't signed anything like that. Someone had forged my digital approval. I printed a copy and locked it in my drawer. My hands shook so badly the paper nearly slipped out of my grasp. That evening, I caught Langston watching me as I left. He didn't say a word, just smiled, like he already knew I'd found it. The next morning, my access to the internal servers was restricted for security reasons. My projects reassigned, my emails monitored. The whispers grew louder. She's in trouble. Langston's cleaning house. She got too close. By Thursday, HR called me in. They said there were concerns about my conduct and unauthorized access to confidential data. I wanted to scream. He was framing me and doing it perfectly. When I got home that night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You're not the first to try. You won't be the last. Be careful, no name, no context. Just that. I didn't know who sent it, a warning or a threat. But one thing was clear. The truth I'd uncovered wasn't just a secret. It was dangerous. And in a company built on silence, I just made too much noise. If someone anonymously warned you to be careful after exposing corruption, would you back off or dig deeper to find the truth? By Friday, fear had turned into something sharper. Determination. I'd spent days walking on eggshells, waiting for Langston's next move. But now I needed to make mine. The forged document with my signature kept haunting me. It wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. And if I didn't protect myself, he'd bury me before the truth ever surfaced. That night, I returned to the office after hours. Security had mostly cleared out. The building's fluorescent lights flickered like ghosts of the workday that never ended. My hands trembled as I swiped my keycard and entered Langston's floor. I searched his assistant's files first. She was meticulous, labeling every folder by project code. Osprey, Falcon, Eden, each one filled with neat summaries of fabricated numbers. Then, in a locked drawer, I found what I was looking for, a portable hard drive. I plugged it into my laptop. My screen filled with hidden folders, payment ledgers, client records, and, most importantly, encrypted memos, the kind he didn't want anyone to see. I copied everything to a flash drive and tucked it into my purse. My heartbeat felt louder than the hum of the computer fans. Every click sounded like thunder. Just as I was about to leave, a voice cut through the quiet. "Working late, Amelia?" I spun around. It wasn't Langston. It was Daniel, one of the senior analysts. He'd always been polite, quiet, the kind of man who noticed everything and said nothing. Forgot some reports," I stammered. He looked at me for a long moment, then stepped closer. "You're not the first one he's cornered, you know." I froze. "What do you mean?" Daniel sighed, glancing toward Langston's office. 3 years ago, an accountant named Rachel found something similar. Offshore funds, manipulated reports. She tried to report it. And then suddenly she resigned. Or so we were told. I felt a chill run down my spine. "What happened to her?" He shook his head. "No one knows. She disappeared from every record. Langston erased her." We stood in silence for a moment. Then Daniel said quietly, "If you're planning to expose him, don't do it alone." He handed me a card, his old university contact at the Financial Ethics Bureau. "She investigates corporate fraud. Use this when you're ready." I nodded slowly, clutching the card like a lifeline. As I left the building, I glanced back through the glass doors. Langston's office light was on, the blinds were half closed, and in the gap I saw his silhouette, standing perfectly still, facing the window. It was as if he knew exactly what I'd taken. That night, I hid the flash drive under a loose floorboard in my apartment. My phone buzzed again, and the same unknown number. "You're getting closer. Watch your back." And this time, I felt eyes on me even after I turned off the lights. Would you risk everything to gather evidence like Amelia did, or walk away before it's too late? By Monday morning, I felt like I was walking into a battlefield dressed as an intern. Every glance felt like a gun aimed my way. Every whisper sounded like a verdict. Langston greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Amelia," he said smoothly, "glad to see you back on track. You've been quiet." My pulse quickened. He was testing me, checking if I'd cracked. I forced a polite smile. "Just focusing on my work, sir." He nodded. "Good. That's what I like to hear." That same morning, a company-wide email went out, a mandatory audit of all employee communications. Every message, every document, every login. Langston framed it as a routine security check, but I knew exactly what it was. A hunt. He was looking for the evidence I'd stolen. I sat at my desk pretending to work while my mind raced. The flash drive was safe at home, hidden under the floorboard. But if they traced the network logs from that night, they'd know I'd accessed restricted files. Kara messaged me on the company chat. "HR's been asking about you." "Be careful," I typed back. "Thanks. Everything okay?" No reply. That afternoon, Langston called an emergency meeting. He stood at the front of the conference room, perfectly calm, while the rest of us fidgeted in silence. "I want to address an important issue," he began, voice slow and deliberate. "Someone within this department has been accessing confidential data without authorization. Whoever it is, I assure you, the consequences will be severe." His eyes flicked toward me, just for a second, but enough for my stomach to twist. After the meeting, Daniel caught up with me in the hallway. "He's setting you up," he whispered. "He's already filed a misconduct complaint with HR." I exhaled shakily. "How do you know?" "Because I saw the draft in his outbox this morning." My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "You're being watched. Don't go home." I looked around. Elevators, lobby, security cameras. Suddenly every face felt suspicious. Daniel noticed my panic. "What's wrong?" I showed him the message. His jaw tightened. "Come with me." We slipped out through the side exit and walked 2 blocks to a cafe. My heart was racing so fast I could barely speak. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "If Langston's monitoring your access, you can't use company systems anymore. Send the files from a personal device, somewhere safe, but you have to act fast, before he makes his move." My hands trembled as I clutched my coffee cup. I didn't trust anyone. Not the office, not the HR team, not even my own apartment now. I looked at Daniel and whispered, "If I send those files, I'll lose everything." He met my eyes. "Maybe. But if you don't, you'll lose yourself." That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. No cameras. Cash only. And as I lay on the creaky bed, I realized something terrifying. Langston wasn't just covering up fraud anymore, he was hunting me. Would you expose the truth knowing your powerful boss was watching your every move? Or would you protect yourself and stay silent? The motel room smelled like stale coffee and fear. The blinds were drawn tight and I hadn't slept in 2 days. Every time a car passed outside, I flinched. Every knock made my heart lurch. I knew Langston was closing in. I could feel it. The walls of that company were like mirrors. Everything reflected back to him eventually. Daniel texted me early that morning. "Are you ready?" I stared at the flash drive lying on the bed beside me. A small, ordinary object holding the power to destroy everything he'd built. I replied, "Yes." Tonight, by evening, I slipped into an internet cafe downtown, the kind of place no one really notices. Broken chairs, buzzing neon lights, dusty keyboards. Perfect. I plugged in the flash drive, opened a secure upload, and attached every file, all the doctored ledgers, forged signatures, fake companies, payment trails. Then I entered the email address Daniel had given me. Clara Jennings, Financial Ethics Bureau. Before hitting send, I hesitated. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This wasn't just a report, this was a declaration of war. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. It's not too late to stay silent. I swallowed hard. Then I pressed send. The moment I did, I felt a strange calm wash over me, like the quiet that comes after a storm, when you're not sure if you survived or just stopped fighting. But peace didn't last long. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Daniel's number. I answered, voice shaky. "Did you send it?" he asked. "Yes." He exhaled. "Good. Then you need to disappear for a while?" "He's going to know disappear," I echoed. Langston has people everywhere. He'll panic once he realizes what's gone. You can't go home. You can't use your cards. Just stay low until Clara contacts you. Before I could reply, a knock echoed through the motel door. Hard, heavy. Daniel, I whispered. Someone's here. Don't open it, he said quickly. Stay quiet. Another knock, louder this time, then silence. I held my breath, my back pressed against the wall. The only sound was my pulse pounding in my ears. After a few minutes, I peeked through the peephole. A man in a dark coat stood outside, head tilted up toward the camera. He didn't knock again, he just smiled. Then he walked away. I stayed frozen for a long time, barely breathing, until I finally sat down on the bed. My hands were trembling too much to hold the phone steady. Daniel messaged again. Whatever happens next, you did the right thing. I wanted to believe that, I really did. But the next morning, when I tried to call Daniel again, his phone was disconnected. Would you risk vanishing into hiding after exposing corruption? Or would you face your enemies head on and take your chances? The news broke 3 days later. I was sitting in a diner near the bus station, coffee gone cold, eyes fixed on the small TV above the counter. The headline crawled across the screen in bold red letters. Rutherford and Chase under federal investigation. Whistleblower evidence reveals massive corporate fraud. My breath caught in my throat. I turned up the volume. The reporter's voice was calm but sharp. Sources confirm that financial records from Rutherford and Chase indicate over $20 million in falsified reports and offshore transfers linked to top executives. Authorities are investigating possible criminal misconduct. I felt the world tilt. The footage shifted to a shot of the company building, cameras flashing, employees rushing out. And there he was, Langston, being escorted into a black car, face pale, jaw clenched, pretending control. My hands shook so hard that my coffee spilled. I couldn't look away. It was happening. Everything I'd risked, every sleepless night, every moment of fear. It was finally real. But with victory came a new kind of fear. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number again. You think you're safe now? I stared at it, heart hammering. No name, no punctuation, just that one sentence. Later that afternoon, the bureau emailed me from a secure address. We've received your documents. We need to verify a few details. Please respond when safe. I wanted to reply immediately, but paranoia held me back. I didn't know who was watching anymore. Then my world tilted again. When I checked the news later that night, a follow-up story appeared. Anonymous source suspected in Rutherford and Chase leak. The article claimed the whistleblower was an internal staffer connected to the audit division. That was me. Within hours, my email flooded with messages. Reporters, coworkers, strangers. Some thanked me. Some called me a traitor. Then, one message made my blood run cold. You'll regret this. No number, no sender name. I packed my bag again and left the motel before sunrise. Took a bus out of the city, keeping my head down, my hood up. Every sound made me jump. But somewhere between fear and exhaustion, a strange peace crept in. I'd done what was right, and no matter what came next, I wasn't going to hide from that. When I checked the Bureau's website that evening, there it was, a public statement. We commend the individual who came forward with critical evidence exposing fraudulent activity within Rutherford and Chase. Justice begins with courage. I read those words over and over, letting them sink in. Courage. That's what they called it. But sitting alone in a cheap motel room miles from home, staring at my reflection in a cracked mirror, I wondered if courage and loneliness were just two sides of the same thing. If you were praised as a hero by the public but hunted in private, would you still believe you did the right thing? I thought once Langston was exposed, it would all be over. I thought the truth would free me. But the truth only opened another door. 2 weeks after the story broke, the Bureau still hadn't contacted me again. Their initial email was the last thing I heard. Every day I checked for updates, hoping for closure, fearing for silence. Then, one morning, I received a plain white envelope slipped under my motel door. No name, no return address. Inside was a printed photo. Daniel sitting in a car with Langston. The timestamp was from 2 days before Langston's arrest. My stomach dropped. My first thought was denial. It can't be. But the evidence was right there. Daniel, the man who'd helped me, who'd told me to trust him, who'd given me the Bureau contact, had been meeting with the very man he warned me about. On the back of the photo, one line was scrawled in messy ink. You were never meant to win. My hands trembled so violently I nearly tore the paper. I grabbed my phone and tried calling Daniel again. The number was still disconnected. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Was he part of it? Was he using me? Was the Bureau contact even real? I went back to the internet cafe where I'd sent the files. The old man at the counter didn't even look up when I walked in. Computer 4, he muttered, as if I were just another lost soul trying to disappear. I logged in and checked the sent folder. The email was gone. Deleted. Not by me. Not from the trash. Wiped clean. My heart pounded. I searched every log, every trace. Nothing. It was like the email never existed. I felt cold sweat on my neck. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a man at the far table watching me. A dark jacket, cap pulled low, a phone in his hand. When I turned, he looked away. I shut the laptop, grabbed my bag, and walked out fast. My pulse was hammering so hard I could barely think. Outside, I called the Bureau directly from a payphone. A woman answered. Financial Ethics Bureau, how may I help? I forced my voice steady. Hi, I'm trying to reach Agent Clara Jennings. Silence. Then she said, I'm sorry, there's no one here by that name. I froze. There has to be. I sent her confidential documents. She interrupted softly. Ma'am, I think you should stop calling this number. The line went dead. I stood there, phone dangling in my hand, cars rushing past, city noise swallowing everything. My entire body felt hollow. Daniel wasn't my ally. Langston wasn't the only villain. And the Bureau, if it ever existed, might have been part of something bigger. I thought I was uncovering one man's corruption, but I'd stepped into something much darker, something that wanted me gone. What would you do if you discovered the only person you trusted was secretly working with your enemy? The city had a different feel at night. Shadows seemed longer, alleys darker, and every passing car a potential threat. I stayed in cheap motels, changing locations like a ghost, but nothing seemed to make me invisible. Then one evening, my phone buzzed with a message I hadn't expected. You're too close. Stop digging, or the next person will disappear in your place. No name, no number, just that. My hands froze around the phone. The words echoed in my head like a scream. Disappear in your place. I thought of Daniel, the picture, his meetings with Langston, his sudden disappearance. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened to him had happened because he trusted the wrong people. I tried calling him again. Disconnected. No trace. Panic clawed at my chest, but I forced myself to think. I remembered the name Rachel, the accountant Daniel had mentioned, the first whistleblower. She had disappeared too, years before. Could they be connected? Was Daniel following her fate? And now, was it my turn? I grabbed my notebook and began jotting down everything. Every meeting, every message, every interaction with Daniel and Langston, every file I'd taken. My pulse was rapid, but writing it down made it feel like I was reclaiming some control. Then another message appeared. One last warning. Walk away or end up like Rachel and Daniel. Choose wisely. I almost dropped the phone. My apartment felt smaller, suffocating, like the walls were closing in. But then, amidst the terror, a strange clarity came over me. I realized fear was exactly what they wanted, to make me vanish, to silence me. But if I gave in, nothing would change. They'd keep manipulating, hiding, destroying anyone who dared to speak. I had the evidence, the files, the truth, and I still had my mind, sharp, observant, cautious. I typed a reply to the unknown number, my fingers trembling. I'm not afraid of ghosts. No response. Of course not. I spent the night planning. If I couldn't trust Daniel, couldn't trust Langston, couldn't even trust the Bureau, I'd have to be my own ally. Every move, every message, every step, meticulously calculated. By dawn, I had a plan. I would reach out to journalists directly, secure my evidence, publish it widely so it couldn't be erased or hidden. But before I could act, I paused. One thought remained. If Daniel had been playing both sides, how many others were still out there, watching, waiting, ready to strike? The message still lingered in my mind. Walk away or end up like Rachel and Daniel. I didn't walk away. I wasn't going to disappear. Not now, not ever. If you received a warning that the people you trusted had vanished, would you keep fighting for the truth or walk away to save yourself? Morning light seeped through the blinds, pale and uncertain, like the calm before a storm. I hadn't slept. My mind was a battlefield of fear and resolve. The warning still haunted me, but fear had burned itself into something stronger, conviction. I brewed a stale cup of motel coffee, opened my laptop, and stared at the mountain of evidence I'd collected. The offshore accounts, the altered reports, the chain of fake invoices all leading back to Langston's network. Daniel's name appeared in several transfers, coded but undeniable. He wasn't just a victim. He'd been part of it. My throat tightened. Betrayal hurt, but truth demanded honesty, even when it destroyed you. I opened my encrypted email and began composing a message to every major news outlet I could find. Investigative reporters, whistleblower platforms, even independent journalists known for exposing corruption. My name is Amelia Clark. I worked for Langston Holdings. What I'm about to send you will explain everything. I attached every file, every photo, every document. Then I hovered over send. My hand trembled. I knew this would burn every bridge I had left. Then I pressed it. There was no going back. Within hours, it started. Anonymous calls. A flood of emails from reporters. Social media posts leaking snippets of the story. Langston Holdings was trending worldwide before noon. Massive corporate fraud uncovered. One headline screamed. CEO implicated in offshore bribery network. Former employee leaks explosive evidence. The world knew now. The truth was free, but freedom came with a cost. My motel door rattled that night. 3 sharp knocks. My heart stopped. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a metal lamp, and stayed still. Amelia? A familiar voice whispered. It was Daniel. He looked different, tired, unshaven, haunted. I didn't know whether to hug him or slam the door in his face. What are you doing here? I hissed. He looked around nervously. You've made them desperate. They're coming for both of us. You were one of them, I spat. I was forced. They had Rachel. They threatened her. When she disappeared, I tried to protect you by pretending to help Langston. His voice cracked. But now it's out. You've done what no one else could, I wanted to believe him. But belief had become a luxury I couldn't afford. Before I could reply, the sound of sirens filled the air. Daniel's eyes widened. They found us, he said. I looked out the window. Police cars, reporters, flashing lights. Not an ambush. The world had come knocking. Daniel turned to me almost in awe. You really did it. I exhaled, the weight of everything finally lifting. No, I said softly. We did it. The silence is broken, but deep down I knew the storm wasn't over. Exposing the truth was just the beginning. If you had undeniable proof that your boss was corrupt, but exposing them could destroy your career and endanger your life, would you still go public? The city never felt quieter than it did that morning. Headlines screamed Langston's downfall, his resignation, and the arrests of several executives. Yet in my motel room, the air felt heavy with tension, not relief. I watched the news, gripping my coffee cup like a lifeline. Reporter after reporter detailed the corruption network, naming names, showing evidence. Daniel's role was mentioned vaguely, framed as an insider who helped authorities. My own name was nowhere, intentionally anonymous. It was enough. My identity hidden, my life slightly safer, but the cost was clear. Trust, freedom, normalcy, all gone. Daniel knocked softly on my door. I opened it cautiously, expecting shadows, threats, but saw only him. He looked exhausted but alive. They arrested Langston's closest associates last night, he said quietly. The Bureau's investigation is expanding. Your evidence triggered the full network to collapse. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. So it's over? Daniel hesitated. Not really. Some people will never be caught. Some parts of the system will try to rebuild. But the silence. You broke it. That matters more than you realize, I exhaled, a mix of relief and lingering fear. And Daniel? After everything? He looked down. I made mistakes. I was scared. But you were brave. You reminded me what it means to do the right thing. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of trust. Maybe not complete, but real. The next days were surreal. The company crumbled publicly, offices emptied, stock prices plummeted, employees whispered, some thankful, some furious. But I was outside it all, watching the dominoes fall from the shadows. I found a new apartment in a small town, far from city lights and cameras. I returned to work only when I found a place where people valued integrity, not manipulation. The scars of fear stayed with me, right? The memory of every warning, every shadow, every vanished ally. But I also carried something stronger, a quiet confidence that I had chosen right, even when the stakes were terrifying. Months later, I received a letter from the Financial Ethics Bureau. No signature, just a simple note. Your courage saved countless people from corruption. Though the world may never know your name, your actions changed everything. I smiled softly, closing the letter. Silence had a price, but truth had its own reward. I thought of Rachel, Daniel, every person Langston had tried to break, and realized something profound. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting in spite of it. I stepped onto my balcony that evening, the sun setting in streaks of gold and orange. I breathed deeply, letting the cool wind wash over me. The city behind me still whispered danger, but I had found a place where I could finally stand tall. I had paid the price of silence, and in return, I had my freedom, my conscience, and my voice. And I would never let anyone take that from me again. If standing up for the truth cost you everything, but saves countless others, would you still do it?